So you've cut the cord and you want to build the ultimate digital media server for your home theater. But which platform should you choose? Plex or Zappiti? In this video, I'm going to put Plex and Zappiti in a head-to-head matchup and let you decide which one is best for you. Let's discuss. Before we get into it, I just want to state that this is not a formal review of the Zappiti. However, I will have a full setup and review video of the Zappiti Neo coming soon, so make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that. For review, I'll be using Emotiva amplification paired with an Anthem MRX 720 receiver for processing and a 7.2.4 speaker configuration, a custom-built Windows 11 Plex media server with the 2017 NVIDIA Shield TV for my Plex client, a Zappiti Neo media player, and an Epson 5040 UV projector with an HD Fury 4K Diva handling the HDMI switching and the low latency Dolby Vision EDIT profiles.
So this video is going to be done in 3 parts: the user interface, player functionality, and features. All right, so first let's take a look at the user interface. So again, I'm using an NVIDIA Shield 2017 version. I don't have the 2019 version that has Dolby Vision or anything like that, but this is still going to be useful to show you the differences between the Plex app and the Zappiti Neo. So let's look at the user interface. I'm going to open up Plex. And anybody that's familiar, or anybody that uses Plex, you're already familiar with this interface and this layout. Plex has been very good about cascading the same interface across all devices. So pretty much any device that you download Plex on, it's going to look exactly the same, which it didn't used to be like that. And you can actually switch back and forth, and we can take a look at that as well. But one thing I really love about Plex is when you open up Plex app, you have all of your libraries that you've created over here on the left. I can go up, I can scroll down through the different libraries that I've created. Super snappy. And once you get to the library that you want, you can go over to the right. You can see, if you're watching something or you paused it, you can continue watching. It shows your recently added, top movies. And then I can go into the actual library up here, and then it'll show me all the movies or all the TV shows that are in this library. So I really, really like this layout. And what you can do with this layout is, if you see these 3 ellipses over here in the corner or on the left, to the left, if I click on that, I can actually customize that sidebar. So that's called a sidebar, all those things that are over here. So let me back out. So this is your sidebar. So this is where all of your folders that you've created inside of Plex, it puts them in a sidebar, and these are all your libraries, not your folders. So if we go back into the ellipses, I can unpin. Let's say, I want to unpin one of those libraries from that sidebar. I can unpin that. I can scan the library files, which if you've added anything new to that library, you can scan it directly from here, and then it'll search on your computer, wherever your server is at, to see if there's any new media added, and then it'll add the metadata and all that stuff. And then I can actually reorder. So if I hit reorder, you'll see the demo material. I'll move it, I can move it up, I can move it down, I can move it wherever I want. And then once I find a place that I want it to be, let's see, I wanted it in alphabetical order. So after the A, I'll put it there, hit OK, and now I've moved it. So another thing that I like is the home tab within the sidebar. So if I go over here, it shows me again, continue watching, it shows me recently added. But let's say I want to go click on James Bond, No Time to Die. So in this layout configuration, it tells me the title. You can see the year that this was released, the time frame, the time of the movie, the genre that it's in, it's action adventure. It has the rating, and then if I've started the movie, you can see it shows how many minutes I have left. And then you can get some ratings and stuff like that. Now, from here, I can hit resume, I can hit play from start. I can add it to my watch list. If you have a watch list where you want to just add movies that you haven't watched yet, you can add that there, and then it'll show up in your saved list. And then I can watch the trailer if I want to. And then if I go to more, so I can mark this as played. Let's say I've already watched it, or I started watching it, I was doing some demos, and I don't want it to show up in that, recently played. I can hit mark as played, and then it'll remove it from there. If I go to playback settings, I can go in here. Let's say I have multiple audio streams. Maybe I'm using a device that doesn't support Dolby Atmos, and I just want to use, lossy audio. I can click that. If I go back into it, select audio stream. Now it's selected, so when I start playing it, it's going to output the audio in AC3 5.1. I go back in here, go to playback settings. If there's subtitles, then I can select the subtitles there as well. So we'll go back here, and then you have watch together. Now this is a very, very cool feature that I used for about a year with some of my friends every Friday night. So Plex added a feature, I believe it was during the pandemic, called Watch Together, where you can watch a movie on your Plex server, or if your another friend has his Plex server, as long as you give them access to your server or specific access just to even one movie, you and your friends can watch the same movie in real time, synced up, and it works pretty flawlessly. The only thing that you have to consider is your ISP, so your internet service provider. The biggest thing that you need to worry about is your upload speed, because everyone else is going to be uploading the movie from your server. So if you have fiber optics, it's probably not going to be big of a deal for you, but that is something that you'll have to consider, that you may run into issues depending on how many people you have with Watch Together. But this is an awesome feature. Like I said, I did this for literally a year. Every Friday night, me and my friends, they would hop on my Watch Together. I gave them access to my library, and we would watch a movie, and then we'd open up like WhatsApp or something, and we'd talk and send jokes back and forth. It was a really fun time during a time when we couldn't see each other in person. So really cool that they have that feature. And then if you created a playlist, you can create that. You can add it there. There's the delete if you want to delete this from your library. And if I hit more info, it'll tell me a little bit more about the movie, a little bit different details than the actual synopsis. And it gives you the director, studio, genre, and then down here you can see the file, more information about the file. So it'll tell you the exact name of the file, how it's named as the MKV. You can see the size, how many gigs it is. You can see the video codecs, the audio codecs, all that cool stuff. There's a ton of information. Now, I can actually change this layout here. So if I go all the way into settings, and then I go to appearance, and then I go to content layout, I can choose it from theme default, or I can go to classic. So if I change that to classic, let me go back, and you can actually see how it's going to look now. So you see now you have basically your poster, your movie poster, and then you still have the synopsis, but you don't get that background image. You get a little bit less information on here. So I like the other layout. So I'm going to go back to that, and then once again I'll show you. So we'll go to content layout classic, and then we'll go to theme default, go back into James Bond, and now you see you've got this other image over here, and it's just a little bit bigger. You don't have the poster that's over here on the left. You can decide which one you like. I like this layout, but that's one thing that I really like about this Plex server. If I go down here, I can look at reviews. I can read reviews from Rotten Tomatoes, stuff like that. So now let's take a look at the layout for the Zappiti Neo. All right, so I've booted up the Zappiti, and as soon as you open up, or as soon as the Zappiti comes on, this is the layout. So this is pretty basic, and I would say this is probably the most basic user interface that I've ever seen. Now, that might not be an issue. It's more nitpicking. This certainly doesn't reflect the quality of the actual player, how it plays, the files, the experience. But this is just very basic. I don't really care for this. This is on some type of Android, I think, software. But if I scroll, I've got video, you've got applications, you've got Explore, you've got recent, you've got favorites, and then you've got setup, and that's it. So very, very basic. And you can actually change the color right now. This color scheme, I changed it from what it was originally. I think it was like orangish, yellowish, or something like that. But it's just very basic. But I don't really think that that's probably going to be a big issue for a lot of people as far as how the Zappiti functions. But let's go and see what the content looks like. So if I hit video, now this is where, to me, it gets a little bit annoying. You have to sit through this pretty much every time. If you back out of your movies and go into another app, you have to sit through this every single time. And to me, this just gets really annoying. I don't know if there's a way to turn it off. I haven't been able to figure it out, and then you got to go through this. And the reason why it's doing this is because it's pulling the metadata from an actual server, as opposed to like Plex, where it's storing that metadata on your hard drive. And you'll hear some of the music playing, so let me turn that down. So that's cool. That's one thing that I will say is really cool. If I scroll over to Kong Skull Island, the music should change. I don't know if you can hear that, but so whenever you hover over a movie, it plays the music for that movie. So I'm going to mute that. So that's really cool. That's a really cool feature that I like. Now, Plex, you can do that as well. I have it turned off, but it's nice to know that, you know, you can play the theme music from your favorite movie or TV shows. I assume TV shows. I haven't tried it on a TV show. But this is the layout. So also, I feel like it's still kind of basic. You know, with Plex, you know, you had all of your libraries here on the left side. I don't even think you can do that. I believe this layout here, this row, this is how it is. Now, you might be able to customize that a little bit, but I don't think you can create your own, basically, you know, folders for your movies. So if I go into War for the Planet of the Apes, this is how it looks. Now, I think this actually looks very beautiful. I like how big everything is. You've got your poster here on the left. It's very big. You've got your background poster, and then you'll notice that the synopsis starts to scroll automatically, which is a nice touch. But I don't know, I haven't been able to find a way of making it scroll like manually. It just does that. There may be a way, I don't know. If you do know, then let me know in the comments. But again, even though I like this, the way it looks, it's still very basic. Remember, on Plex, I could go into change, you know, the subtitles, I could change the audio track, I could do watch together, which this just doesn't have. So that's another feature that, you know, I'll probably talk about later in an actual review. But yeah, so you've got your information, you've got the aspect ratio, you've got the type of audio, you've got English, and then you've got that it's an MKV file here, Matroska, HEVC, then you've got your frame rate. So I guess it's good information. It's just not as detailed as your Plex server. So if I want to play the movie, I can hit OK, and then it will load the movie. And then it tells me, you know, I have the option to resume playback, and it tells me, you know, what timestamp I'm at. You know, 64% of the movie has been played, and then I can play from the beginning. And that's pretty much it. So that's how the layout looks on the Zappiti. Much more basic than your Netflix. And I guess you could say it's a little bit more streamlined. Maybe you don't care about all those other features. Again, this video is to help you decide which one you like better. All right, so now let's take a look at the playback functionalities. So I'm gonna back out of here, and maybe I'll select a different movie. I'll go into Kong Skull Island. Okay, so I'm gonna hit OK. It's gonna load the video. And then I'm going to do resume playback. Let's say, just to make this quicker, I'm gonna hit resume playback. and we're gonna wait for the movie to start, and you can see how long it takes for the movie to start. Now this is running off of a hard drive inside of the internal drive bay on the Zappiti. And this is kind of like a pre-roll that you can play during. I'm gonna skip through this. Okay, so I skipped through the pre-roll and now it takes me back here again. So again, this is kind of annoying. So I'm gonna hit resume playback so it can play the movie. Like the movie should just play after that pre-roll. Okay, so the movie is playing now, and a beautiful, beautiful image, absolutely beautiful. And that's one area that I give to the Zappiti with the video and audio. It may not be a like complete night and day difference from the NVIDIA Shield, but I definitely noticed an improvement in video quality and a definite improvement in audio quality. Okay, so we're talking about playback functionality. So now that my movie's playing on the Zappiti Neo, what options do I have? So if I hit OK, I can go to different timestamps. Now, this I don't like at all compared to the NVIDIA Shield, and you'll see why. This doesn't have any generated preview thumbnails. Now, if there is a way to get that as a feature, I've looked, I can't find it. If there is, please let me know in the comments so that I know and so that others know. But I don't like this. I don't want to have to rely on a timestamp. I want to see an actual visualization for where I'm at in the movie, and then I can decide if I want to skip, then I can go, oh, I see that, you know, that thumbnail. I'm going to click on that and go there. With this, I have to rely on timestamps. I don't know where that is in the movie. Maybe I'm reviewing, you know, a piece of equipment, a projector, a TV or something, and I want to go specifically to a certain part of the movie. With this makes it very, very difficult to know where you're at because there's no preview thumbnails like you do with Plex. So that I wish was different. Again, that may not be a big issue for you. You may not even care about that. But how are you supposed to know where you're at in the movie without thumbnails? Now, if you're using like an ISO file, you know, Blu-ray ISO, then you'll get the complete Blu-ray menu functionalities, and you can actually, you know, pull up the tracks that has the thumbnails embedded in there. So you can do that as well. This is just straight MKV. Okay, so I'm gonna back out of that. Now, if I hit pause, there's nothing that comes up on the screen. So something else that's different than the Plex server, which we'll see. So I can hit info. Now, if I hit info, then I get the chapter where I'm at. I get the container, the codec, the video resolution, current video mode, bit rate, the remaining time. So again, I guess maybe this is enough information for you, but I still like to have some type of thumbnail or visual representation. But for the info, I guess you don't really need that. So this isn't really, I wouldn't really give a knock to it on the info. But basically, yeah, so if I turn that off and I hit play, that's basically the playback functionalities. Also, something weird that I will talk about in the review is the remote. I don't like the remote for the Zappiti. The controls are very weird. It's not, the layout of the remote is fine, but the functionality is different. Just to quickly, for instance, if I hit, you know, left or right, it's not like you would do with the MKV, like on pretty much any other device that has MKV. You know, when I hit left or right, it should skip back and skip forward, and it's not like that on the Zappiti remote. It's really weird, but I'll go into depth on that in the actual review. So that's basically the playback functionalities. I hit pause, play, and then, you know, if I hit OK, then I can, you know, go to different timestamps. But again, I don't know where that is in the movie. So let's take a look at the playback functionalities of the Plex server on the NVIDIA Shield.
Hey everybody, I wanted to take a quick moment to say welcome to my theater and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan, aka Haterade Cowboy, and I really appreciate you clicking on this video and supporting the channel. but the channel still needs your help. So if you enjoy the content that I produce here, why don't you do me a solid by hitting the subscribe button and hit the like button if you find value in this video. And don't forget to share it with your friends. All right, let's get back to the video.
Okay, so I'm back on the NVIDIA Shield and I'm in my animated movies. So I'm gonna go up to library so I can see all the animated movies. Now, I'm just gonna pick a movie. Let's say I want to watch Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So I'm gonna hit play. And then it's gonna start playing. Okay, so if I hit OK, the movie still continues to play, but now I have a HUD. And oops, I skipped back and forth. So I can go over to this HUD, I can hit, HD, I can tell it to play original quality, or if I want to down convert it, I can have it convert automatically, or if I hit show all, I can choose exactly the bit rate that I want to here. So tons of options just there on that HUD. So I'm going to back out. And so if I go back over here, if I click on that, I can change subtitles. I can select subtitles, or I can turn subtitles off. And then if I go over here, it'll tell me picture and picture is temporarily unavailable at this time. If I go over here to the ellipses, then I can go to playback settings. Again, more options. I can do play original quality. I can do subtitles. I can do shuffle, sleep timer. Back out of that, I can go to play info. So it's telling me that it's direct playing from my media or from my server, Haterade Cowboy Cinema. It tells me the resolution and the megabits per second. It tells me the container, which is MKV, video, direct play. Now, I realize most people aren't going to be doing this during the movie. I certainly hardly ever do this, but I want to show you the functionalities that you have available to you with the Plex server. As you saw, the Zappiti was just very basic. And I will say that I think Zappiti aims towards more of the experience as opposed to probably the features, which is okay. And I don't really have a problem with that, but maybe I'm just a little bit biased because I've been using the Plex server for so long. I just feel like there's a lack of controls and customization and features when I'm watching a movie, especially for people that are reviewing content. Maybe you need more info, right? So, chapter selection. This is what I was talking about. So now, let me go back here. If I go to chapter selection and I want to skip to a chapter, I actually have preview thumbnails to where I know exactly where that's at in the movie. And I can click on that, boom, skip the chapter. Look how fast that is. As opposed to a bunch of timestamps that I don't know where it is at that point in the movie. So, really good. That's the playback functionalities. That's probably my biggest issue with the Zappiti, is that they don't have support for this. Now, I think the player definitely has the horsepower to support this. However, I don't know if they're ever actually going to implement it. I don't know if it actually has the capabilities in its framework, but this to me is very important. I use this all the time, even when I'm watching regular movies, especially when I'm demoing movies. This comes in super, super helpful. So that's pretty much the playback functionalities of NVIDIA Shield and Plex versus Zappiti Neo. And like I said, this is available on pretty much every single device that supports a Plex client. You can do this on pretty much all of them. I don't know if there's any other devices, maybe some really old devices where it just doesn't have enough horsepower to support that, but you can get chapter selections and preview thumbnails on any app, any Plex app on any device. Okay, let's briefly talk about features. Now, this is probably going to look a little bit washed out because I have the lights on. So Forgive me for that, but hopefully you'll be able to at least, make out what's on the screen. So I'm back on the Zappiti, and I want to talk about features. So you can do some customization on the Zappiti like you can do with the Plex server. However, the Plex server is going to give you a lot more options to customize, but let's take a look. So if I go here to general, I can change the interface language to English, time zone, time format. I can have the screensaver to come on after, from 2 minutes all the way up to 1 hour. I can do reset settings, reboot. If we go over to video, I can change the EDID. I can have it set to auto, or I can go all the way up to, excuse me. I can go all the way up to 4K 2160 at 60 Hertz. So I can change the frame rate. I can change the auto resolution. I can change the HDR and Dolby Vision settings. So you can go in there, you can do some customization with that, HDR10 Plus. So that's for the video. For audio, you can change the HDMI, if you're using HDMI, or if you need to use SPDIF. Let's take a look at network. So IP settings, and if you go into applications, you can go to the photo viewer, you can go to the browser, SMB server, Blu-ray. Now, the NVIDIA Shield, it's a Plex client, but the Plex doesn't have a web server. But who's going to be using their movie library with a web server so that's probably not important to most people. Now here's where you can change the appearance. So if I go to main, I can change it from Zappiti Aurora. I can go to silver, I can go custom. I'm not sure what custom is. You can play around with that if you want to. You can change the icons, animation effects. And then if I go to additional, so I can adapt the user interface for a wider screen if you're using a scope screen or a wide screen. I'm using 16:9, so I'm gonna leave that off. And then playback. So if we go into playback, I can change the audio language, the subtitle language. Subtitles, you can change that. Control. You can do a lot of stuff for what the remote does. So you can probably change some of those functions. Like I said, the remote is pretty wonky as far as how it's laid out. Well, not the actual layout of the remote, but how the remote buttons actually function. I thought it was really weird. Maybe it's different because it's, this isn't a US product, but you can actually change some of the stuff, and I'm assuming this is for on the remote when you press certain buttons when you're watching a movie or you're controlling the remote going back and forth within the settings. And then I can go to preferences, and you can go around in there and change the preferences for 3D depth, video files, audio files, stuff like that. And then miscellaneous, you've got your file browser, you've got power management, firmware upgrade, support, location, optical drive, not sure what that's for. And then you can change the display, you can change the brightness, you can change the clock, all that stuff. And then if we go into system, so this looks exactly like the NVIDIA Shield because it's running off of Android. So you can go in there and customize that stuff. We're not gonna really worry about that. And then information just tells you the firmware and stuff like that. So those are the actual features that you can change. Now, you can do the same thing. I already showed you some of that with the Plex server, but some of the things that you can do with the Plex server that you can't do with this Zappiti is you have remote play. So no matter where I'm at, anywhere in the world, as long as my Plex server has an internet connection and I've enabled remote feature, I can access my Plex server anywhere. I can watch my content. Obviously, other things come into play like your ISP, your internet speeds, your uploads and download speeds and stuff like that. So your experience, if you're watching something, in a different state or a different country, if you're watching on an iPad, if you're watching on, a desktop or a laptop, that experience is going to be limited to your ISP and your bandwidth of the internet as well as your device. So with Plex, you can also download straight to your device. So let's say I'm gonna go on a trip, maybe I'm on a 8-9 hour flight and I wanna watch some movies from my Plex server and I don't have internet up in the air. I can actually download movies from my server onto my phone or my iPad or laptop, whatever, using the Plex app. And basically, like you can do with Netflix, you can download to a device. Can't do that with the Zappiti. And as we talked about, Plex has Watch Together, which is an awesome feature. I've already discussed that. I'm not going to go into that in detail, but another thing that the Zappiti Neo doesn't have. And then both devices, the NVIDIA Shield, or I'm sorry, the Plex server, as well as the Zappiti Neo, both support mobile apps. So there's a lot more functionality with the Plex app, and Plex actually has more than one app. They have the movie app where you can watch, movies, TV shows. They have another app that will show you anytime anyone's watching anything, whether it's you or someone is watching a movie remotely, it'll show that. It'll show the device that's using it. It'll show the bit rate. It'll show the resolution, and then you can actually stop playback. If somebody is logging into your server, you don't want them to watch a certain movie or you don't want them to watch anything anymore, you can actually hit stop playback and send a message, and it will send them a message saying, so-and-so, the owner of whatever Haterade Cowboy Cinema Plex server has stop playback, and it has a message. And then Plex also has Plex app, where if you have music, there's a dedicated Plex music app that you can use for that. So there's a lot of more functionality with the Plex, at least in my opinion. That's not to say that the Zappiti Neo is a bad device, because it is not. When it comes to specifically watching movies, which I think it's geared towards more, Plex gives you a lot of customization and you can do a lot of configuration. The Zappiti isn't really geared towards that. I think the Zappiti is geared towards a specific niche of, hey, here's your content. We want you to experience your content in the best way possible: audio, video, Dolby Vision, HDR10+, and it does that flawlessly. I absolutely love the Zappiti Neo for a video and audio source. Like it's leaps and bounds over pretty much anything else that's out there. However, I do feel like at the premium price, which I didn't pay for this was loaned to me by one of my subscribers, Rich, which again, thank you, Rich, for loaning this to me. But I think for the premium price, especially this is, kind of a mid-tier Zappiti product, I feel like they should offer more options as well as more configuration, for the end user. But that is the comparison with Plex and Zappiti. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I know this video is a little bit longer than normal, but there was a lot to talk about, and I want to help you make the best decision that you can make when deciding, whether you want to just build a Plex server from scratch, whether using an existing computer that you have or just building the best Plex server that you can have, building your own computer DIY, or if you want to just go out, buy basically a box that's already has all the infrastructure there and you just add your own content. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know down in the comments.
So there you have it. Plex versus Zappiti. Now, this was a lot of fun making this video, but there's still more to come. As I said earlier, I'll be making a formal setup and review video of the Zappiti Neo soon. So make sure you're subscribed and you hit the bell notification so you know exactly when I post any new videos. Before I sign off though, I want to know your thoughts on Plex and Zappiti. So that's going to bring us to Query of the Week. If you were building a movie server, which one would you choose? A custom built Plex server or any of the Zappiti products? And if you already own a Zappiti media player, what's been your experience with it? Sound off in the comments. That's going to conclude it for this video. Once again, thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel. I'm almost at 2,000 subscribers. I'm about 100, a little bit over 100 away from hitting 2,000. So please support the channel, continue to support the channel, hit that subscribe button, and tell your friends about the channel if you find any value in the content that I produce here. As always, no matter where you're at on your home theater journey, make sure you enjoy it. For Haterade Cowboy Cinema, I'm Haterade Cowboy, and I'll see you guys in the next video.